Hey guys, so on today's episode, first episode of Fix It with Matt, we have a Subaru Ea 190V power washer, 2700 psi, 2.4 gallons per minute. So what's going on with the machine is it only runs on starter fluid. So today I'm going to be changing the carburetor. The reason I am completely changing and not rebuilding this carburetor is because a brand new one on Amazon is about 20 bucks. So cleaning it and all that isn't really worth the time and effort. So just to go into it really quick, I'll show you guys how easy this is to do this at home on your own time. Have a couple needle nose pliers, 10mm ratchet, nothing too crazy. Let's get started. So here's your air box. Gonna undo that. Got a little air filter here. Couple of 10mm nuts. I've already kind of done this on the back end, but for the sake of the video, gonna redo the steps. Second one off. That'll take off your air filter housing. Here's a little breather tube in the back. I'm gonna pop that off. That's pretty much that, not much to it. And here we have our carburetor with two linkages for your throttle and choke, obviously. Here's your choke mechanism. Nothing too crazy there. And then the throttle back here, powered by the whole governor spring. So I'll show you kind of a glimpse of how bad this carburetor was on the inside and why I decided to just replace the entire thing instead of cleaning it. There was a bunch of cake in here. There was like residue in the bottom of this bowl. I kind of already flushed that out, but we're not going to deal with that. Here we have our Amazon replacement. Nice spotless carburetor. The only difference I noticed was this choke mechanism. So this guy has a little spring here. It's spring loaded, but I don't want to keep this spring on, because if I do that, then what you'll have to do is you'll have to physically hold the choke back and pull the starter cord at the same time to start the machine. So what I did is I basically just took this little spring off. It's right here, and left it on the side. It just latches around this little pin here on the top for this to work as a spring loaded, but we don't want that, like I said, because I don't want to be holding the choke and pulling the starter cord at the same time. Anyway, here we go. All you have is this fuel line. You want to make sure you shut your fuel off, of course, because if you don't do that, it's going to spill out everywhere. You're going to get a little bit coming out of this carburetor bowl. If you take off the carburetor bowl, I'm just going to take off the line, the gas supply line. So there's a little pin here. You squeeze these tabs together and this slides over. You pop this guy out. And then basically it just slides right off of here. You're going to have to kind of force it a little bit past its comfort zone, but that's the only way to get it off here. And then we just have to tilt it a little bit and force these little wires out of these choke and throttle cables. There goes one. And sorry, I'm doing this with one hand and holding the phone with the other. There goes the other. Now we just have this tiny little spring here. This will probably be the most difficult part of this. pop that out like so. And there's your carburetor. And that's about it for that. There's a couple gaskets that they supply with this. So this back one seems to be totally intact. I'm not going to try to rip it off because that's just going to be a mess, and we'd have to shave everything down to make sure it's nice and flush. So I'm going to leave that one. But in that kit, they supply you with the other side for the front here. I'm going to reuse that from the kit. So going back into it, reinstall this guy while holding you guys in one hand. So we have this little tab here where this wire goes into, and then on the other side, this side, we have this wire here. Tilt it, put it back on these pins. And that's that. Then we just want to put this little wire here, this guy, and this little hole here. And I'll show you guys in a second. There we go. So you have the spring in the one hole and then the actual cable in the other. This guy only has the one here. You slide this back in, check your choke. That's functioning perfectly fine. And then we just want to put the air box back on. So again, don't forget this little breather tube. Slide that back in. Then we line this up with these holes. And here is the two nuts that we took off. Looks like I forgot the gasket, so before I get ahead of myself, a little gasket goes on here. It's got a hole here. Make sure that lines up perfectly. Put these back on here. It's not too bad. It's literally a couple nuts and a couple lines, and you should be back in business. Tighten this up. Sorry for the tremble in the camera, guys. I'm doing this with one hand once again. Take your socket. Snug these up nicely. Alrighty. Put your air filter back in. Line it up here, like so. Alrighty, and then the air filter cover. It's got this little tab here on the back that slides in here. And then it closes shut. Put this pin. Got your little gas line. Slide the tab over here. Not too bad. All right. That's in. Turn your fuel back on here. And horizontal is open and vertical is closed. Everything seems to be back in place. I'm going to put you guys down for a second while I get this off the bench. We'll go ahead and start her up. And that was pretty much it for placing the carburetor on one of these. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And it honestly beats rebuilding this guy, as this will be very time consuming for $20. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. I'll put the link for the new carburetor below here. And hang tight one sec while I get this thing down from the bench. We'll start her up. Alrighty. Open the garage here. I'm not going to run her for too long just because I'm not going to hook up the hoses to it. So there's just an on and off switch here. And then it shows you on here to start it. You want to pull out, and then for it to, once it starts to run, just pop this over and you should be good to go. Let's give her a pull. She's being stubborn, but that's probably just the fuel getting to it. And that's that, guys. Don't want to run it for too long because there is no water hooked up to the pump. I don't want to burn out the pump. And there you have it. There's your Subaru Ea 190V working like a charm again. Thanks, guys, and we will see you on another episode with Fix It with Matt.